everyone. It's Cydney Sullivan, and I'm here with best-selling author Susan Kennedy. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Cydney. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me to speak.
Oh, congratulations on all your successes, and thank you for sharing your top success tips with us.
Yeah.
So the full name of the book is Sacred Spiritual Business, Fulfill Your Destiny, Step Out of the Shadows into Your Light. Your background was that you found yourself being a single mother. You went through a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression yourself, but you overcame all of those things and you learned how to heal others. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey for you?
Sure. Where to begin, really? But so that the listeners will relate to it, is that, I've had many past lives in this life, and I have got a couple of children. I've been married twice, and in my second marriage, a lot of things weren't the ideal. I actually moved from a job that I had in Cydney, working for a big insurance company, and I went into my husband's business. And I think in a way that was really good at the time, but what I realised many, many years later was that I lost myself. So I'd lost myself, I'd lost my dreams, I didn't know who I was. And I think that was part of the reason for the depression that I had. Also, as a child, I'd taken on a lot of responsibility, took on a lot of responsibility for my mum. She had mental illness. And then in my marriage, I'd suffered a bit with depression, and so had my ex-husband. So we went through a period where there was a lot of loss. We lost money in business. My daughter had an issue with drug addiction. My mum was dying. His father was dying. Just went through a whole lot of things, which I call my dark night of the soul. And I think through that, I realised that something had to change. And the only thing really that I had to change was me. So I sort of decided I had to accept responsibility for the way my life was, and decided that I needed to really look at myself, learn how to love myself, and learn how to let go of any things from the past that were holding me back from being who I really was. And as soon as I made that decision, almost instantaneously, the psychic awareness opened up. And it took me on a very different path. The right teachers appeared, the right mentors. And I just decided I wanted to follow what was in my heart. And that was a deeper connection with my spirit, so I could have a deeper connection with spirit in general. Yeah.
Thank you. So now, are you ready to get started on your top success tips based on your life experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the number one top tip that you're going to share with us?
Well, the number one tip, I believe, is to know yourself in a very deep and intimate way, so that you can then really understand the people that you're working with. And when you know yourself, that means being able to look back over your life and really look at it dispassionately and look at all the amazing things that you've done. Because so often we get to a place in our life where we get stuck. And I was in the same position where I got stuck. And then when I looked back at all the things I've achieved, I was a single mum for many years. I came to Australia in 1983 with two small children. And after 6 months, my marriage broke up. And I was a single mum for quite a few years with no family support. So I sort of, when you do the timeline and you look back and you really get to know who you are, that's when you can learn how to love yourself. But you can also then learn how to really understand other people.
Fantastic.
If you're going to be in business, or you're going to be, especially in spiritual business, you've really got to have a strong sense of self.
And do you find people find that challenging because they've just been so used to, over the years, like looking after their children, looking after their husband, maybe accommodating their parents or their boss or whatever? Do you find that takes a bit of work to get to know yourself again? And
absolutely, because I've found in my work that most of the people that come into spiritual work, they come because they've got a calling. And in that calling, they've usually had something in their life that's been difficult, might have been in their life or in their family. So there's always been that energy of having to look after other people and therefore losing self. So it's actually about knowing fully who you are and really finding that person inside, finding the passion, finding the joy, finding the knowledge, finding the faults as well, so that you know what to work on. But just really being honest with who we are and really knowing who we are.
And do you have a process if people wanted to work with you, if they feel lost? Do you have a process in your
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I've got tools, and and in that process it does sometimes bring things up from the past, which are the things that are stopping people from moving into their true calling or into their true power. Yeah.
And you believe that can even be past life. It might not even be something you're aware of from this life, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, I know that a lot of what happens is, past life things will raise their head at a time when we're about to go into something new. And that's when our soul says, oh, great, there's an opportunity now to clear that past thought, belief, or experience so that the soul can really express itself and be the best version of itself. Yeah.
And how can people reach you if they want to work with you? What's your website?
My website is Visana, V for Victor, ISANNA, visana.com.
Great, thank you. And you also have Psychic Medium Susan, don't you? Because I found you on that one the other day. So
yeah, Psychic Medium Susan was my old website. My email is susan@visana. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. So top tip number 2.
Okay, so my top tip number 2 is to allocate some time every day for self-care. Now, sometimes, people will say, oh, you should meditate every day. Not everybody knows how to meditate or has time for that. But for me, self-care would be doing something for myself every day, getting up, going for a walk, or, sitting down and just having some quiet time. It's having a cup of tea, or just doing something that is totally just for you, so that you're not being the healer, the mum, the helper, the business person, but that you're just being that person who is with themselves. Ideally meditation is great, but, walking, getting involved, doing something for self. So just allocating that time every day, because mostly people that work in spiritual business are givers, and they generally tend to give everything to everybody else. And if somebody rings for an appointment, the idea might be, oh yeah, I'll put away what I was going to do for myself and I'll deal with that person. So I think it's about having really strong boundaries and doing something for self every day.
And do you actually have a meditation in your book, don't you? Don't you give away a free meditation if they meditate?
I do, yeah, there's a free meditation in there. So a guided meditation just helps, in a way, stop the monkey mind and helps you get into the alpha state of mind. And it's in the alpha state of mind that we are most at peace with ourselves, and that's where all the creation happens and the healing and the regeneration of energy. So that's why it's so important to allocate that time every day for self-care.
Great. So if they get your book and if they grab your ebook, then please make sure you do just open it up, read at least the first few pages, and grab your free meditation in there and start doing it. See if it starts producing results for you.
Yeah.
What is top tip number 3?
Well, my third tip is to develop strong intuition and use it. So I believe that everybody has intuition, and intuition is your 6th sense. So we have our 5 senses that help us live in the physical world, but we were given spiritually, everybody was given a 6th sense, which is the ability to see, hear and feel what isn't obvious. And so that's that gut feeling that you have. It's the knowingness, it's the the hunch, but it's learning how to develop that intuition so that you can be smarter in what you do. Because what I've experienced since I developed my own intuition is that when I'm working with people, it enables me to get to the core of their problem quickly. Yeah.
Because we all have our stories, right? We're all caught up in our stories. And you're able to really hone in on the language that pops out for you of what might be the core issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And top tip number 5.
Oh, well, I think we're up to number 4, but that's okay.
Number 4? Oh, sorry, number 4. Good that you're keeping track. Good that you're keeping
track. I've got them here written down. Now, number 4 is actually write down your values and stay true to them. So I think it's really important, especially in spiritual work, that you are aligned with what your values are. Because more so in spiritual work, because we're working with the energy of spirituality. We're working with our core essence. So if you know what your values are, your core values, and you make sure that you stick to them. You'll find that the day will be easier, the weeks will be easier, all of your business plans will really flow, because then it's always looking at everything you plan to do and saying, well, is that in my core values? And then if somebody invites you to do something, or you get distracted with something, or a new shiny toy comes along, you can just go back and say, well, actually, that sounds like a great idea, but it's not actually in my core values, so I think it's not for me. And I really believe that keeps you on track. Yeah.
Wonderful. Number 5?
Number 5, well, it's along the similar vein, is to align with other people who share your values. So again, that thing that like attracts like. So finding other people that share the things you're passionate about, people that have the same values as you, so that then you can, do joint ventures, or you can share your ideas. I know I've always looked for other practitioners that I can refer my people to. And if I'm going to have a client that I'm mentoring and they need help, I want to make sure they're with somebody that has got those values so that they feel safe. So it's just looking for those people, aligning with those people, and again, being willing to say no if you don't feel it's right for you. Yeah.
Tip number 6.
Tip number 6 is actually step outside your comfort zone and learn other ways to get your message out there. So again, that's something I did a few years ago when I did a webinar boot camp. I was just speaking with Cydney about that earlier. So being on video was something that was very foreign to me a few years ago, and I've just learned how to become very comfortable with the medium. So it's interesting, the medium, getting comfortable with new mediums. But yeah, for everyone really to step out of your comfort zone from time to time. And that might be accepting an invitation to speak. It might be whatever it is, if someone asks you something, I think it's just being willing to say, well, if I've been given that opportunity, I will say yes. And I always remember thinking, anytime I've had a big advance in my own career, people have offered me something. They've offered me the opportunity to, do a demonstration of mediumship or to speak at an event. And whilst I might be frightened, I always check with my guidance, and it's like, yep, okay, do that. So it's take the risk. Yeah.
And number 7.
Number 7. Okay, so the thing I've got here is to allocate your time so that you know what you're doing, and allocate twice as much time, if not 3 times as much time, to creation and working on your business as you do working in your business. Because in this day and age, we're in an information age. Even psychics, even healers, even people that work with natural therapies, people still always want more. They want to see that you've got a social presence. They want to see that you know what you're talking about. So I found that allocating more time to the actual creation and being strict with that time will really reap, unimaginable rewards. Otherwise, books don't get written, things don't happen unless you allocate the time for it. But don't be afraid to do it. When you're initially thinking about it, you can say, well, I'm not seeing clients and I'm losing money. But you have to think more long term, and you have to take a bigger picture, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I've just been going through that myself. I've been really busy. I went for a month traveling and meeting with digital marketers and going to all these big conferences, and then I've forced myself to take some time out to really plan a more automated business.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable because I'm used to being so busy, and I need to force myself to actually do the planning of the creative part. It does take a little bit of, again, getting out of your comfort zone, right? So it's easy to be busy, but being effective is a whole other skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And number 8.
Number 8. Interesting that I've chosen 8 for this one, because 8's all about power in numerological terms. But 8, I say, get a mentor who will help you raise your skills and keep you accountable and lift you to another level. It wasn't until I got myself a mentor that everything changed for me. And it's what helped me know the value of doing that for other people. Because for myself, having a weekly call or having a weekly session meant there were things I had to do between this week and the next week. And it also gave me someone that knew more than I did, that could help me navigate through the technology maze. You know, I've had mentors for my mediumship. I've had mentors to help me write books. I've had mentors to help me, you know, put webinars together and to work with social media. So I really found as soon as I engage a mentor, everything changes for me. And I would recommend that everybody, no matter what level you're at, you always need someone to reach up to so that you can raise yourself and you can learn more and keep on expanding and growing.
Wonderful. And number 9.
Number 9 is incorporate what you love doing into your work. So for me, I actually run a lot of passion and purpose workshops, and it's helping people find what their passion is. So for example, one of my passions is traveling. I absolutely adore traveling. So for me, being able to run retreats in different locations is incorporating what I love doing into my work. And I can do what I do absolutely anywhere. So I tend not to, I'm not a stay-at-home person. I love to be out and about, and I can do my work anywhere. So it means that I can do that, you can do that. So find that thing that you really love to do, or lots of things that you love to do, and see how you can incorporate them into your work, because then your work becomes more your passion, your pleasure. And I always say, you know, if you can find your passion, you'll never work another day in your life. And the whole thing is, if you love speaking, if you love writing, then find a way you can work doing that, so that you really incorporate the actual joy things into your life, into your work. Yeah.
And number 10.
So number 10 is actually make having fun a priority, and ensure that you have a complete break away from anything that you do, a complete break. So for me, how I do that is I go overseas at least once a year, and I make it you know, well, if I'm in a foreign country, just being on the plane, meeting new people means I'm not thinking about my clients, and it's not that I don't love them, but it's, you know, so much is enough. So having that complete break, I find, really rejuvenates me. Recently, I just spent a couple of days up in the mountains with a friend, and we had the most beautiful, you know, absolute breakaway, just watch movies all day, had fun. But I find that when you're doing any kind of work and where you're really driven, and especially if you're doing work for other people, such as, you know, mentoring, healing, coaching, psychic work is, you know, there's a lot of energy involved. Just taking that time to step back will pay dividends as well.
I agree. I get on planes a lot and travel as a speaker,
Yeah.
and, you know, going to other conferences. And I find as soon as I get on that plane, you just get a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need to get to a different environment so that you can see things a different way.
Absolutely.
And I find when I'm on planes, it's really good for being creative, writing my books and planning out. Do you find that too?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also my time to find new television series to watch and catch up with movies.
Yeah, I love that.
So I don't have a TV. So when I'm traveling, it's like I have this, oh my goodness, what can I watch? What can I watch? And then I get hooked on a HBO series that I've got to buy and you know, watch on DVD.
Wow. No TV. That's a big commitment.
Yeah.
So that's your 10 top tips. And what else do you cover in the book? Why would people want to grab a copy of your Sacred Spiritual Business right now?
Okay. So there's 21 days of
just for people. It's not just for people in the spiritual business.
No, it's not. Actually, what it's about is keeping your values and being successful. So the whole idea is, if you follow the exercises every day, it'll help you know yourself, and it'll help you recognize exactly where you're at. And it's actually a strong tool to be able to help you feel confident about what you're doing and know what changes you need to make. You know, talk about having joint ventures with people, you know, about doing things differently, and really just being as true to yourself as you can be. Yeah.
I've turned my video off just for a minute because we're starting to lose our signal. But I would actually love to know, first of all, I thank you very, very much for sharing your success tips. And I encourage everyone to run over to Kindle or Amazon. And I think this is the kind of book that you might even want to get a physical copy of. Can they also get it at your website, Susan? Are you going to make the book available from your website?
I will be making it available, yes, as soon as we work out how to do that.
Okay, so at the moment, the best place is to go over to Amazon and find Susan Kennedy's Sacred Spiritual Business, and grab a copy. And please post a review. Reviews are so important. They help us so much with our Amazon. With Amazon paying attention to us as authors. So if you are an author or you want to be an author, then support your fellow authors by taking a few minutes to post a review. And also, so if anybody is thinking about becoming an author or maybe running workshops like you do, can you tell us about what the experience has been like for you? How did you just really were very, very good. Once you got clear on what your book was going to be about, you found the process you got clear on you did the 21 days, which helped you a lot for that first one. Actually, first of all, you wrote the outline for the relationships book, right? And then,
so what happened, it's interesting how this worked, because I've had this idea for a book for a long time about relationships, about finding love. And I'd get up at 3 o'clock every morning and I just thought, well, I'll write chapters, and I don't know, I'll pull it all together at the end. And then through our conversations and through the work I was doing with people, I decided that had to wait, and that this one really needed to be written. And it's interesting because even the title, it's probably not your average catchy marketing title, but I did it through meditation, and I trust what I get. So when I got the name Sacred Spiritual Business, I went, really? And I was told yes. So I just trusted that. But when I started writing, what I found was I actually entered into what I call that divine flow, that as soon as I started, it just absolutely, it flowed. And I felt the excitement. I felt the energy of each chapter. And I think we discussed it, Cydney, and I think we worked out, maybe 1,500 words per chapter. But I found that having a deadline, number one, helped. And we set a deadline together. But I also found that having myself allocating time for it and saying, okay, I want this done within this period of time. And I just set aside a certain amount of time every day to do a chapter. So, it took probably maybe a bit over a month, and obviously all the editing and things after that. But I laid down the basis of it very, very quickly because I was disciplined about it. But I also found that in the discipline, I entered into a very beautiful flow of information.
And what I have always loved about this process, particularly when you do one like yours, which is a 21-day process, is you in the end, you create an entire training program. And one of the reasons we decided this was a great book for you to do was you'd already sold the training program. You were already doing a mentoring program. So you were going to have to design it anyway, right? So it was like it ticked a lot of boxes.
Yeah. And when I look at it, the book will give you an outline of things, but when I work with people one-on-one, one particular chapter can take 3 or 4 weeks because of whatever that person's experienced and what their knowledge is. So it's just been a beautiful process, and I would recommend that anybody who's thinking about doing it actually stop procrastinating and just set yourself, the formula. So the formula for me was that 21 days, which is interesting as well, because when I teach Reiki, everything in Reiki at the end has got a 21-day healing period at the end, or 21 days, where people have to work with the energy for it to integrate. So it all fit in a most beautiful way.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Very, very proud of you. It's a beautiful book. I hope everyone will really enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed this time with Susan. And go over and grab a copy of the book. And if you'd like to work with Susan, you can go to her website, vizana.com, and you can book in a time. And she is just a delight. I can wholeheartedly vouch for her. So thank you. And I'll end the recording, and the best of luck with your. Have you got big plans for taking your book out to the world? Like I didn't. He's already been TV, radio. He's got his book in the bookstores. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. I was just speaking to a lady this morning in New Zealand who's already been in 59 countries, and she said to me, hey, come over and we'll do a book tour over here. So I think it'll go to New Zealand. And there's lots of opportunities that are suddenly coming now that the book is in physical reality. So that's the other thing. Sometimes we worry about getting it done, but when you do it, then the doors start to open. So
Very exciting, very
Well,
exciting.
yeah.
Keep us informed. We're going to be posting this in the Facebook group, Celebrity Experts TV, and you can keep people updated when you've got events coming up, and people can come and meet you personally. So,
all right. Thank you, Cydney.
thank you.
Okay, bye.